how to create a winning mentality in real estate. On the next, Don't Bet the House.
Where's the music for that, Mike?
I thought you were going to sing. I thought we were going to sing Flowers. What's the new trend? Everybody but Mahomes talking about giving people flowers, and
yeah,
is that the props or what?
Yeah, I mean, I can't just give you your props now? I got to give you flowers?
Give them his flowers.
Dang.
That's an interesting analogy. Welcome to episode 17 of Don't Bet the House. It's our season finale after the NFL season, and it ended pretty well for the red and gold.
I would agree. It ended real well. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, there's only one team that gets to end the season on a win, and that was the Chiefs this year.
You know, hey, Stacy asked me the other day. She said, I came in and I was watching some of the Super Bowl highlights or whatever, and she was like, "The season's over." I'm like, "Yeah, if your team's a bunch of losers."
Well, hey, let's apply that into real estate right now. So how do we take a championship football team and apply that into real estate and real estate investing? Because winning, maybe people always think about just making money as winning, but there's a mentality to the whole thing.
Well, for me, okay, we'll talk about, rolling it over, obviously, to from football to real estate. And in the second quarter, Patrick Mahomes got hurt. We all saw him grimacing over there. They didn't look good. You were nervous. I was nervous. Mm-hmm. Most people were nervous, would you say?
Well, I actually
more than nervous,
doubled down on the Chiefs and got him at plus 200, so I was happy that he went down.
Okay.
Bet the house.
Yeah. But, a lot of people were nervous, But the thing about that guy is, and I don't think maybe we see it to this point in time, but you know what? He's the GOAT right now. He's the GOAT as far as that winning mentality, like Jordan had some of those guys or whatever. And for whatever reason, that he's going to put his all into it. And I kind of think that's the thing about, real estate, man, is you have to put your all into it. You have to have some sort of passion behind it. But, sometimes like when they came out and played the second half, they didn't try to get the game back in one play, did they? No. It's a step at a step at a step at a step. They just take a little bit of the time. And I think that's where you gain your success in real estate is it's a little bit at a time, If you want to be a successful real estate investor, you don't just wake up tomorrow and say, hey, I'm going to go buy 12 houses. Maybe you won the lottery and that's what you do, but for the most part, most people don't do that. They come up with a plan, they implement it, as Luke would say, and they start step by step by step trying to figure out how are we going to start investing in real estate.
So the first thing, basically what I'm hearing from you is you're going to have to expect a lot of adversity along the way. That's part of the process.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yep. And I think the other thing, if you go back to last offseason, the Chiefs had some huge holes to fill. And, they lost Tyreek. The AFC West, everybody was betting that every other team was going to, do way better than the Chiefs were because, they added certain players and all the Chiefs were doing was, losing some of their dynamic players. And so what'd they do? In the draft, they went back and they reevaluated the strengths and weaknesses of their team. They drafted to build their weaknesses up, and where that ended up helping them was, they drafted Karlaftis for the defensive line, and they reshaped their defensive line. And then what happened during the season? They were second in the league in sacks, which, it allowed their defense applying that kind of pressure on the QB. It helped every phase of their game. Helped their secondary. It helped, their run stopping, which in turn helped their offense. And so, you look back and you look at what they lost. They didn't just sit around and say, oh, well, we can't just throw it to Tyreek anymore. We got to come up with a different game plan. And so
I think that invigorated Andy Reid more than anything else. I think he looked like a different coach.
And where that applies in real estate is if you look at your situation and you think, well, the only people that are winning deals are cash buyers. Well, I don't have any cash. How am I going to win a deal? You have to come up with a game plan that separates you from everybody else.
But the thing about that game plan, Luke, is once again, I may not have cash, but what else can I do? What kind of package can I put together? That's the one thing about the Chiefs. You look, obviously, during the Super Bowl, you went out there, everybody bet against the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. You look at Fox, everybody picked against the Chiefs. You know why?
Everybody did.
Because Philadelphia was the more talented team in everybody else's eyes.
The more complete team.
You know,
That's what everybody said.
taking that with Cash. Obviously, Cash is the more complete team. But what can I do? How can I put my team together to build a better,
That's a
build a
great
better team,
analogy right there.
And
Right.
that's the thing, Mike. Is that's where how do you become successful? It's not an overnight sensation, man. Like the Chiefs, they're not an overnight sensation. Like obviously, if they were an overnight sensation, we'd have 4 Super Bowl rings right now, but we don't. Because what, they had a little bit of heart failure. They had some things go on, but what? They stayed patient. They stayed to the game plan, and they made it work. The same thing you got to do as a real estate investor, as a buyer, hell, as an agent, as anybody. You have to stay patient, and you have to go out there, and you just have to make that move. And guess what? You're either going to win some, you're going to lose some. But it's okay. Keep playing the game.
But I think we're back on point how important it is to get involved with real estate professionals who know the process, who can give you those ideas and can feed you that winning mentality, because it is kind of bred by information and experience.
No, absolutely. And I think that, obviously, we're kind of switching the show up here a little bit. We generally talk about, just one specific thing. But, this morning I gave a meeting, just kind of keys to success. And I think that can just relate in so many different things. It can start out, as a real estate investor, as an agent, as a person, as a coach, as a player, whatever it is, all the same things we talked about, you implement them and they're all going to work. And, as an investor, we don't just jump on the very first deal, Hey, if it was up to everybody else, guess what? The Chiefs would have went out and got OBJ because he was the key to winning the Super Bowl. Do you remember that?
Yep.
I vividly remember people saying, we've given up on the season. Everybody else is spending all this money. All of our opponents had gone out and upgraded their offenses, and we just stood pat. In fact, we got worse because we traded Tyreek. That's not exactly what happened.
But you know what? Nobody was talking about? Nobody was talking about this Tony guy, right? And let's look what he's done for us. I mean, he really stepped in. I would love to see that guy not get hurt, and I want to see him in one complete season because I think that he's somebody to talk about. But it's funny, everybody else was focused on OBJ, and here Veach is. He goes and he comes around the backside and let me just pick this guy up over here. And, kind of circling back around to what we were talking about, that to me is the keys to be successful. You don't go get the deal that everybody else wants. Pick over here, poke around, see what else is out there.
Well, so when we talk about this, when we talk about implementation, what are some good first steps for somebody to make? And when I think about that, so I just look at how was the way that I was able to find a couple of my first deals. I went out and so what every investor wants to do is they want to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that's 12 to 1,700 square feet, ranch style, 2-car garage. And so that's where the most competition is. And so when I went out to buy my first one, I looked for something that most investors weren't looking for. And so I went after a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, maybe a little bit smaller, a little lower price point in an area that maybe wasn't the hottest area in the world. And that allowed me to actually get my first deal. And then you can learn along the way as you're doing that first one. But if you're going to go after the same thing that every investor is going to go after, every cash buyer is going to go after, if you don't have cash lined up, it's going to be hard to compete against them. So you have to look for a deal that maybe is outside that normal buy box.
I'd go back to another championship team here, the Royals in 2015. They built a championship team by kind of thinking outside the box. They realized they didn't have the money to compete with other teams. They didn't actually have the starting pitching within their organization to get it done. So what did they go out and do? They went out and spent a lot of money on relief pitching and built the most dominant relief staff ever. This applies a perfect analogy to what you're talking about here. They thought outside the box. They went out and found some other way to do it that they compete with the big teams, and they won the world championship. So again, winning mentality.
You know what? You guys got a winning mentality. You guys are real good at taking sports and real estate and mixing them together. Oh, you guys are winners, man.
Well, going forward, this is our last episode of this season, so to speak, but we're going to be branching off into a lot of more specific information for investors. We're going to have a March Madness special. We're going to have picks for everybody, so we're going to get on that and probably try to get you guys involved with some prizes. I think that would be
somebody, just one
ideal.
person get involved. One person.
Yep, we're gonna
let us know we're not just talking on dead ears
yes,
out
please,
here.
please. I think so. Look forward to that. We're definitely going to have that. A lot more motivation, which I think as he broached on today. That's really important as the core of anything you do. And look forward to a podcast we're going to be starting in the near future where we can really expand on some of these ideas.
Mike, I'm going to need a deadline in this podcast. This is on you, Luke. Hold him down to it. Write it down. Let's see where it goes.
I'm gonna make it happen. So hey, right now let's talk a little bit about the Super Bowl parade, because I think it's one. Despite some people that were concerned about the drinking, the reality is this city really put on a show for its people. We weren't burning cars. There weren't arrests. There weren't fights everywhere. We weren't tearing down our city. We did it right, and you were out there at the parade. What were your thoughts?
Man, you know what? I thought it was great. And I mean, yes, you're going to have the people that are going to complain about, the guys out there drinking and stuff. And in some people's minds, it might be tasteless, But at the end of the day, as long as they keep winning Super Bowls, I don't really think anybody cares. Like, if you're, I'm kind of one of those parents. Obviously, at the end of the day, like if you don't want your kids to see that kind of stuff, don't take them out there. I mean, you kind of knew what you signed up for.
Well, that's exactly how I feel too. Is you got to be able to you got to have a certain level of expectation of what's going to go on. And then you can't just assume that these guys are going to fall into your rules, what's going to make you happy and what's going to make your kids happy. If you're the type of parent that can explain to your kids that, they're celebrating, they're having a good time, they're enjoying themselves, like there's no room to criticize another group of grown men on how they're going to celebrate.
At the end of the day, Luke, like it's one of those things where yes, like these guys, they're human beings, man. Mm-hmm. Like they have to be able to, they work hard every day, kind of like we do,
Yeah.
You got to be able to enjoy yourself every once in a while.
It's a 7-day-a-week job for them for 9 months a year, and then 5 days a week the rest of the year. So,
and they just conquered the biggest hurdle
they won,
that they have.
They won
in
the
their
biggest
careers.
prize in American sports. So,
and my other question for you as a parent, did you not watch the last parade? Did you not watch the Royals parade? Like, have you never seen a parade before? And what happens? I mean, that to me is kind of like.
Well, to be honest, let's really be honest here. What happened was these reporters went and found the 3 people that were upset about it in the crowd of 200,000 people and put those on on TV.
I watched this parade from start to finish and on TV, so I kind of got a bird's eye view of what people's reactions were and everything, and so many smiling, happy people, so much engagement from the team. I mean, it's rare to get to be able to hug a player and have them hand you a trophy and chug a beer with them. And
I haven't washed my hand yet because Harrison Butker, gave me a little. It was one of those things. But they were out there, and these guys they're having a good time. Not to mention, let's just take it back a couple days. So these guys won the Super Bowl. Half of them went to Disney World or whatever. Some of them went to TV shows. Like, how much sleep did they really have?
Yeah.
Like, what do you like? Yeah. I'm just telling you, if I win something like that, if I sell you a $30 million house, I'm partying.
Yeah, that's right. And tell your kids. Well, hey, it's been a great season for Don't Bet the House again. This is episode 17. We got a lot more coming up for you. This is Luke Laser, Brendon Harper. I'm Money Mike. Just remember, whatever you do,
don't bet the house.